This sounds like Nerul's place. I mean, not exactly, but Nerul had like like floating, running around towers or something like that as well. So I suppose that's a thing. Behold, the pleasure district of Kree Uzaz. Again, the word Kree is here. The eager old man hurriedly hobbles through the curtain, then he and the city disappears. The portal is dark again. Light from the gen evidently extinguished. What? Where? You stammer. Where indeed, says Darren. This is where our patrons find pleasure beyond anything they could find in this world. What do you say? Pleasure and nothing else. What world was that? I bet that's expensive, yeah. I bet that's expensive, you say. Yes, says Darren with a faint smile, and worth every coin. I was there myself recently to assure myself that the reality meets our guests' expectations. Oh, you say, what sort of things did you do there? All of it. Darren does with a gleam in his eyes. Something about his vacant stare into the distance tell you that he experienced more than good food, strong drink, and fetching women. He turns his attention back to you. Even a bit of gambling. You enjoy that, don't you? You shrug and nod. There's no reason to deny it. Certainly the house knows your vices. Well, there are betting sports in Kree that you would not forget soon. They will not soon forget. Is probably have to like bet your soul or something. He says the currency is different too. He pulls from his tunic a small glass vial filled with dark, pitch black liquid. It is called the Dark. He smiles. Ever heard of it? You stare at the vial for a moment and then shake your head. No, by the look of it, I'd say it was poison. Darren looks over to Krugel. The Rooster nods. What is it? You say. The Dark Elf sniffs at you haughtily. It is not part of this or not part of this tour. Okay. And this chapter is huge, it's not ending. The Naked Portal patrons carry on in their excitement, demanding more drink from Rekka, as though afraid of being sober before the time through the portal comes. The woman who is covering her groin with one hand grabs a newly filled wine glass off the plate. Time to move on, says Darren, beginning to walk back. By the way, when do they come back? When do they reopen the portal for them to walk back here? Who knows, really? Okay, time to move on. You follow. When you catch up to Darren, you say, I thought it's impolite to ask Rekka, but perhaps you would be so good as to tell me what sort of creature she is. A water spirit, says Darren, yet not a mermaid. You say, she uses that form often, although only when swimming, says Darren, a tinge of irritation creeping into his voice. Maybe he gets questions about Rekka all too often. That glowing gem she used, where did it come from? You ask, ignoring your fear of attracting the Dark Elf's ire. How was it made? Asked Darren, quickening the pace, or as though attempting to lose you. No, that wasn't what you meant. You wanted to know where such treasures might be stored, but you decide not to answer directly, not with the truths watching you. In response, you smile. Well, says Darren, slowing down and turning his head over his shoulders to give you a dazzling smile. You already witnessed that part of the tour. Not allowing yourselves to be intimidated, you say, I presume it has to do with what occurs in the room with the puppets, bear rats, and all the screaming. Darren nods. The debtor's room, we call it. Although the goblins you witnessed being harvested owe no debt, those we simply need to thin out. Wise to cut their numbers, you say. Those little fiends are becoming common knowledge in the city. Indeed. The Dark Elf sniffs. What does he sniff all the time, disdainfully? I mean, he scoffs or something, it would be understandable. Sniff? The soul of living things, particularly intelligent beasts, even goblin, contain power if you know how to extract it, says Darren. Right. Soul crushing is a thing, but this feels like different from soul crushing. Like soul crushing is like you crush the soul, you immediately get like part of that individual's power, and the soul loses some like memory and power, and they just go back to the beyond. But like the infinite stairway or whatever. But this one, it feels like they're like leaking blood out of them, but like blood soul power or something. It's very confusing. They don't really explain much. They're not explaining anything, to be honest with you. So far, we have not got much in the name of explanation. The only thing we have gotten explained so far is when Egra told us that, one thing and the other thing with the godlings and gods and Nerul's seat and whatever. Okay, indeed, the Dark Elf sniffs disdainfully. Yeah, we already read all that. The needles and the contraceptions, you ask with a shiver. Life is the greatest currency, he says. Not where I come from, you say. I have seen life exchanged for nothing more than a few copper discs with the king's head stamped upon them. Indeed, I have seen men die for less, for reputation or pride. Reputation is a currency with less substance than fog in the air. Darren nods. I suppose I cannot argue with that, although in regard to reputation, that is far from worthless. I dare say reputation is the foundation of the house. Yes, I'm very familiar with Ruda here's obsession on that score, you say. Toad Demon, who appears to have been watching you from around the corner, rejoins your group, bringing with him a fresh wave of stench. Darren covers his nose and turns his face for a moment before he recovers. He spares the demon a glare before turning his eyes up straight and proud. You return to the boat. The river tunnel continues beyond this chamber, but Darren takes you back the way you came with greater haste. You can hear the sloshing of the bow wake, even though you cannot see it in the darkness of the tunnel. So we just went back to the boat. Why are we hurrying though? Soon you find yourself in the chamber with the bridge. Screams are still echoing from the debtor's room. Fortunately, Darren does not seem to intend to take you back there. With a wave of his hands, override the double door in the middle. The large double door, adorned with chalked symbols, open. Inside is a chamber with large swimming pool, presumably originally designed for recreation. Bubbles percolate up from some unseen source. There is a square stone island in the middle of the pool with a statue of a fish being ridden by a cherubic infant, or at least that's what it looks like to you. The stone is pocked and discolored with age. The fish is missing its side fins and tail. There are fish inside the pool, many of them. As a native of Windborne, you know your fish. You recognize these as a morsu, as indicated by the red stripes on the backs. Sounds like one of those really expensive fishes, white and red fishes that you see in anime all the time. Morsu can live in saltwater, like near your home, or freshwater, like what you have here. They are voracious carnivores, quite dangerous when they school together like this. Oh, they're talking about like what are those called? Fucking piranhas. They're essentially talking about piranhas. From the picked clean bones on the bottom of the pool, some of which appear to be human, you'd say they have been receiving some meals here. Darren is biting his lip longingly as he watches you and take a step back from the pool's edge. Dark Elf's lips twist into what might pass for a smile before turning and leading you to another pair of large doors that he opens with a wave of his hand. Inside a room of crystalline water, in each corner of the rectangular chamber, there's a crystal ball on a pedestal. In the middle of the room is a dais, at the top of which is a platform with more crystal balls. Several water people. Water people? Are we talking about like Reka or something? Like what was she again? Water spirit or whatever? There's several water people, both men and women, apparently working in here. Like Reka, their pale color flashes blue as they move. Right, that makes sense. Unlike Reka, these are naked. She was almost naked. A woman gazes into a glowing crystal ball. A man stands next to her, whispering to her as she reads from a scroll. Where his fingers touch the parchment, tiny blue sparks fall along with drops of water that roll off. As you step in, your feet splash into a puddle that extends over the floor. About an inch deep, water trickles from the steps of the dais, likely fed by the water people atop it. As you walk in further, you see on the other side of the raised platform a man with green streaks in his hair, standing in a small bubbling pool on the far side of the room. His eyes are shut, his chin up as though listening. Not asking permission, you step up. Not asking permission, you step up onto the first step of the dais, allowing for a better view of the platform. From this angle, you can see a massive closed book atop a richly carved book pedestal. The book, you blurt out. Looking back, you see the Toad Demon smiling, fangs showing. A fresh stirring of drool oozes down onto his round armored belly. This is the mind of our operation here, says Darren, motioning grandly to the room, where he climbs the steps to again tower over you. We scry from here. Naturally, the orbs aid in this, and yes, he says pointingly to where your eyes fixated, the book you seek. Tour is nice, you say, yet now that we are here with the book, it would ease my mind if you can take care of business now. Darren looks at the Truthseer for a moment, then back at you. You can talk business. First, answer me one question. Did you know what we were doing down here? No, you say, glancing over at the Truthseer, his eyes reading your face. Not the slightest idea, he says, leaning down towards you. No, you say, instinctively shrinking back. Darren looks over at the Truthseer, who nods back. Good, says Darren. And of course, I would never tell anyone, you say. The Toad Demon's smile widens and he begins to hiss slightly. Maybe that's his version of a laugh. Whatever it is, you don't like it. They're probably gonna kill me or something. Anyway, now on to business, you say, thrusting your hand into your cloak. The toad demon's smile is gone. In a blur, he has his trident pointed at you, the three razor tips near your chest, a mere thirst away from skewering you. Darren holds up his hand. I'm just fetching payment, you say, gold. Darren dismissively waves at you. Never mind, your debt has been paid. Hope wells up inside you. I have a sister too. Do you know if her debt is paid? Darren tilts his head up and barks, leave us. I'm guessing our sister is like some like a super individual with like a super strong soul or something, and they're probably gonna be like, okay, so you sell us your sister, you go free. Otherwise, you can continue bargaining with us, we'll fuck your shit up, something like that. Or probably some rich merchant already bought the sister and our debt is paid. Anyhow, Hope wells up. How does he know all this? Like, is he constantly getting messages or something in his head? Debt has been paid. Hope wells up within you. I have a sister too. Do you know if her debt is paid? Okay, I will read all this. The attendants in the room, who have seemed to be ignoring you, all hurry to the pool in the corner of the room and dive in without as much as a splash. Within seconds, the four of you are left alone. Darren steps up. Four of you. 1, 2, 3, 4. What happened to the priest-looking thing, or with the guy with the green streaks, with his eyes closed or whatever? The four of you are left alone. Darren steps up onto the platform, waves his hand over one of the crystal balls. An inky cloud fills the orbs. We have him. He says into the ball. Who is him? They're talking about you, obviously, you ask. The expression of the toad demon's face confirms your fear that Darren was talking about you. His trident trembles, what you think may be anticipation. Darren turns back to you. You see your debt has been paid. More precisely, it has been purchased by another party. No, you say, you cannot do that. You cannot sell my contract. The toad demon hisses. You obviously did not read the contract carefully, says Darren. I never read it, you say. It was my father. I never read it. It was my father's contract. This gives me no pleasure, Rooster, he says. I would have preferred you pay it off yourself, and then I likely would have offered you lucrative employment. It would have been very beneficial to me and the house to have a man of your ability and recently won reputation. I can buy it back, you say. I will pay you more than anyone else. The purchase amount was very large, says Darren. Besides, your contract is no longer ours to sell. Who bought it? You ask. He shakes his head. I'm not authorized to say. You feel inclined to give him a guess, either to find the truth or perhaps better yet, soothe them into complacency and gain yourself advantage. Who do you guess? I am split between House Shushan and the Cult of the Thog. The most likely one is the Cult of the Thog rather than House Shusan, but I feel like that's the one. But I will go with the Cult of the Thog because they're probably trying to kill me so that the Thog will get our soul or whatever. Cult of the Thog. Who has the resources and hates you beyond anyone else? Thog, you think. The Cult of the Thog bought it. You say, no, and I'm not going to entertain your guesses. Darren says, Rugal winces. A lie, you think. It's the Thogians. You had assumed that Thog would seek his revenge in a more godlike manner, but it seems perfectly reasonable that his priesthood would use mundane means of acquiring the man that they seek. Fear takes hold of you and you feel nauseous. Better to get skewered by this toad demon than allow yourself to fall into the clutches of Thog's priesthood. A fate far worse than death. I think we should pull out that gem at this point. On the other hand, maybe there is a smarter approach. Oh, it's the Duke, you say with a large smile. He has more gold than anyone. He certainly owes me after I slew the monster rampaging about his castle. Darren stares at you, his face expressionless. He wanted it to be a surprise, of course, you say, chuckling. I did not realize the man has such a sense of humor. The toad demon hisses with laughter. Well, I hope he gives me my freedom, but more likely he will just keep me bound to him, you say with a sigh. It is hard to let go of a hero. Certainly, he has many more guests for me. The Rootser is staring at you, frowning, his eyebrow crinkled. Can you detect my deception? You wonder. You weren't asking a question, rather you just volunteered a guess. What do you understand? Truthsayer are trained for questions and answers. You can put that down, you say, nodding at the trident. There is no way that is no way to treat a hero, particularly one that has made you so much coin. Darren nods at the demon, and the beast reluctantly retracts his weapon. Rugal's frown is gone. He's back to looking slightly bored. If he detected deception, hopefully he'll let it slide. This is about to end, I feel like. I have one life. That concludes our business, Rooster. We shall escort you out. The elation on the toad demon's face tells you that out does not mean you're simply to be dumped out onto the surface, free to strut away. Wait, you say, pointing up at the pedestal with the large book. I shall like to see my contact and that of my sister. No, says Darren, a coldness in his voice. I fed many mangy dogs in this town. You say reciting the code phrase Bonebrow gave you. Darren tilts his head at you and frowns. Finally, he says, I'm sure you have, but I'm afraid that isn't enough. You have not seen the riches I offer, you say, motioning at your pocket. It does not matter, says Darren, shaking his head sadly. A deal has been struck and I will honor the agreement I made. Honor the agreement, you say, raising your eyebrows. The Dark Elf not do whatever he wishes, or are you a slave? Rugal steps away from Darren as the demon hisses his laughter. Hisses his laughter. What type of shit is that? Watch your tongue, Nikolai, says Darren through clenched teeth. Squeezes his fist and you feel a dark uneasiness, fuck you, settle in on you. Unlike my cousin, I believe in law. Without law, there is only void, and the greatest power is found through discipline and restraint. Spoken like a true slave, that is true. Is that why you're an outcast of your kind, to your kind? I'm sure the house values your enlightened philosophy. Spoken like a true slave, I don't care. Push your luck, push it real good. I don't know what the fuck is that reference, but that's funny. I'm gonna go back one choice. I'm gonna read it. That's the same thing. I'm just gonna boost my survival stat 1 point. Life. Here we go. Spoken like a true slave. You say, matching Darren's haughty tone. You catch a flash of something come across the toad demon's face that might be a version of amusement. You score a point with him. No doubt the demon has no respect for his rule following elf. The Dark Elf, however, is not amused. He clenches his fist and clenches his teeth and closes his fist. Agony pushes through you. Blood runs out of your nose, drips onto the shallow puddle you're standing in. You summon your strength and push back his dark magic. Perhaps all the time spent with Egra in your mind has taught you inner fortitude. Fresh anger flashes over Darren's eyes, likely due to you resisting his power. Nevertheless, he relaxes his fist and the pain slightly subsides. You would do well to mind your manners, boy, says Darren. You stand tall, tempted to nod to him, yet do not speak. Some speak ill of Ruda here, yet none would call us savages. We make the rules and then we follow them. I will not apologize for obeying the law we lay down. Rugal smiles faintly. He has pleased the truth-sayer, as he must at least believe what he says. Okay, you think, great, a zealot. Unfortunately, you have run across one Dark Elf that believes in honoring an agreement, that puts you in a tough spot, an impossible spot. He will turn you over to your enemy. You cannot allow that to happen. They left you with your weapons, which would be a comfort if not for the fact that they left you with your weapons. Because they know that that is actually far scarier, because if they removed your weapons, then it's like, okay, so they are scared of weapons, but it's like they don't even give a shit that you have weapons. Left you with your weapons. Such confidence in your captors is unsettling, to say the least. Would not be the first time, would have been underestimated, you think. Indeed, the complacency is what you have been seeking to instill into these arrogant gangsters. Time to see if you succeeded. Bring on the battle. Really, we're actually gonna fight? Holy shit, there's no way we're gonna win. We did pretty good. Cunning Rogue, we did pretty good. 430, we would have gotten a little bit more. We have gotten the full points and gotten to the next chapter. That was very interesting. A lot to read. Lots of lore dumps and House Ruda here bullshit. We're actually going to fight in the next chapter. I'm very concerned about that because, again, have nothing to our name in this fight. And then we have Phobe, who's just hanging out under the Puppet Master's house. So we got so much shit to do, man. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching. There's a link in the description to my Twitter. There's also a link to my Patreon. Go check that stuff out. And there's going to be a link to the background music. We're gonna move on to the best choices of this chapter, and I think I made plenty good choices in this chapter, so it's not going to be too big of a... Hopefully it's not too big, but anyhow, we'll see you there. Bye-bye.